If you don't know the transactional annotation, you probably won't get a job as a Spring Boot developer, because speaking from experience, you will be asked about this annotation at your job interview. If you want to learn what are transactions in relational databases and what the transactional annotation does, this video is for you. My name is Oscar and I'm a passionate Java developer, and on YouTube I share what I learned in Java and Spring Boot ecosystems. Today, I will introduce you to the core feature of Spring Data JPA, which is transactional annotation. Let's say we have some user service that registers users. First, it saves our user to database using the user repository and then sends some welcome email. For the purpose of this video, this email service will only log that the email was sent. Okay, so go to our application and let's run this program and save some example user. Okay, looks like everything works fine as it should. Let's see if our user was saved, and indeed our user Bob was saved. Okay, so what happens if, for example, this email service throws some exception? Let's run our application again, and we'll see what happens. Okay, so we got some exception, and the email was not sent. So let's see if our user was created or not. And we see that another user was created even though our email failed. And we would like to have some consistent data in our database, because if this part of our method failed, we don't want our user to be still saved. Okay, so how do we fix that? Everyone knows the concept of transactions from relational databases, but I will remind you that transaction is a concept that states that if we have some group of operations on our database, they will either all succeed or they will all fail. And this is basically how you should think about transactional annotation. It turns the whole method scope into a transaction. So let's add transactional annotation, okay, and run our application again. Let's go to application and run this again, okay. So we get more scary runtime exception, but the program of course still runs because it's only a runtime exception. And let's see, we don't see a log that states that our user was saved, only that we started saving. So let's see if third user was created, and he was not. So we fixed this problem with our database and the inconsistent data, but there is also one other use case that I want to show you of the transactional annotation. So we have this other method that is find user post by user ID. And we also have this post that this is basically a many-to-one relation with our user. Okay, so this user service also have this method find user posts by user ID. So basically it fetches a user from our database and then basically gets posts from this user and checks how many posts there are. So if we again run this program, okay, what happens? What happens? Yeah, we get still the runtime exception because we throw this. Okay, let's rerun this again. And we get new exception, lazy initialization exception. This happens because our posts are not fetched with the user when we fetch our user in the user service here. This happens because basically in Spring Data JPA, or more specifically Hibernate, we have something like persistence context. And this context stores in memory all of the entities we let Hibernate manage, and all of the information about relations and so on. Basically here, this method find by ID is one transaction. And this transaction begins when we go to this and ends when we go out of this transaction. So basically here, we only get our user without any information about posts and so on, because Here we stated that these posts are have fetch type lazy, so they are not fetched every time we fetch a user, only when we specifically ask for this for this entity. So how do we fix this problem? Of course, by adding the transactional annotation again to our method, and let's run it again, and it should work fine. And we get found 0 posts because no posts from this user were created. And here basically Hibernate automatically creates another query for the posts. So even though we only technically here ask him to fetch our user, because it's still part of the transaction and this persistence context, we still have information about posts from the user. So this entity still exists here, and we can fetch information about relations of this entity. If you want to learn more about Java and Spring Boot, join Spring Boot Academy. Top link in the description. Here is the next video YouTube things you should watch. Until next time, create some amazing applications.